Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Got a text from my lovely bride telling me slow down. So I am now, for this segment, I will be Mr. Rogers. I promise to behave myself. Now, here's another group. You might ask this group whether they feel that President Obama is working for them, and that's our military. Remember, I talked about these sequestration cuts that are going to devastate defense contractors. You know, and you think about what a horrible time to be cutting back on our military. We got news now. Iran's launched a Russian-made or German-made or somebody-made submarine, or Iran is doing that. Iran got a submarine from Russia, and they've launched that in, I don't know, somewhere. I don't know if it was the Mediterranean or the Gulf of Suez or Red Sea or somewhere over there, Persian Gulf, somewhere in there. They've got a sub going. We've got the Middle East is completely aflame. We're shutting down our embassies all over the place. France is shutting down 20 embassies and schools all over the world because a French magazine published cartoons today poking fun at Muhammad. Now, what does that tell you? What does that tell you that the French government knows and understands? If they know that these cartoons are going to be published, that they poke fun at Muhammad, and as a result of the fact that they know these cartoons are going to be published, they close down 20 of their embassies around the world and shut down all of their schools. What does that mean? That means that they know, ladies and gentlemen, they know that Islam is not a religion of peace anywhere in the world. They're not just shutting down one embassy here or one embassy there. They're shutting down 20 embassies. And I've got a story in here about how many embassies we're closing down today for exactly the same reason. They know. You catch them, you catch them, they won't admit it to you. I mean, you go to the government of France, hey, is Islam a religion of violence, war, and death? They'd say, oh, no, it's a religion of peace. It's just been hijacked. But you look at what they do, and it's very clear that they do not believe that Islam, in any sense of the word, is a religion of peace anywhere in the world where it's allowed to have free reign. Now, the other group, here's where I was getting to. I got myself sidetracked, and I almost started to push the red line there. So let me throttle back here. Now, there's a law that says that every military base has to have a voter assistance office. This is a law. This is a congressional law. And that's so we can make sure that the military is able to participate in the electoral process. I mean, if anybody ought to have their right to participate in an election protected, it would be our men and women in uniform. They're the ones that are risking their very lives to protect that liberty in America. They ought to be at the front of the queue to make sure that they can vote. So this law says every military base installation post got to have a voter assistance office. Now, the Deputy Inspector General for the Defense Department, now remember these Inspector Generals, they're independent. They don't work for the Department of Defense. They're independent. They're supposed to be watchdogs. And this Ambassador Kenneth Moorfield, he's the Deputy Inspector General for Plans and Operations. He told the House Armed Services Subcommittee that he was unable to make contact with 50% of the military's voter assistance offices. Now, he's got access because of his position as Inspector General. He can call up anybody he wants, and they have to tell him what they have to answer his questions. He can't even find 50% of these voter assistance offices. And he says they either do not exist or are not reasonably accessible. So what's that mean? I mean, this is Barack Obama suppressing the military vote. That's what this is all about. He knows the military's not with him. You know, we talked with you about that speech he gave. I forget what fort it was at, but he was greeted with just this kind of polite silence. I mean, they would kind of give him a polite round of applause, but it's very, very clear that room was dead silence. There's no energy. There's no regard for him personally as commander-in-chief. There's respect and regard for the office. That's why they were polite. That's why they were courteous. That's why they were silent, because they have respect for the office and the position, but they do not respect the man that holds the office at this time. So this is voter suppression. So Barack Obama's out there buying votes by suspending all of these welfare requirements, these work requirements. He suspends them. What's he doing? He's just out there buying votes while suppressing the vote in the military. Now, here is Barack Obama's philosophy. This goes back to October. This is clip 4, back to October of 1998. He's speaking in a conference at Loyola University. Now, remember, when liberals use the word redistribution, They mean one thing by that and one thing only. They mean legalized theft. That's what they mean by redistribution, using the power of government to coercively extract resources from some citizens in order to give them to other citizens. It's legal burglary. It's a legal mugging. It's a legal holdup. It's done under the color of law, but it's stealing under the color of law. If government steals from you, that doesn't make it right just because it's government doing it. It's still a violation of God's commandment, thou shalt not steal. Steal is when you go and take money that doesn't belong to you to give it to put it in your own pocket or give it to somebody else. That's theft. You know, if you've got health care needs, let's say, you've got health care needs, you do not have the right to go next door and rob your neighbor to pay the hospital bill. You don't have a right to do that. That's theft, and you're going to get punished for that. So it's no more right when government does that. When government goes to your neighbor's house, barges in, and takes his money and gives it to somebody else, that's just legalized plunder. So when liberals use the word redistribution, it's just a big word for legalized theft. Now, with that context, listen to what Barack Obama said October 19, 1998 at Loyola University. Remember, the Democrats are out there saying, hey, when Mitt Romney talked about the 47% and writing them off, that wasn't just a gaffe. That was Mitt Romney being honest about who he is. Well, here's Barack Obama being honest about who he is. Let's listen.
The trick, this is one of the few areas where I think there are technical issues that have to be dealt with as opposed to just political issues. I think the trick is figuring out how do we structure government systems that pool resources and hence facilitate some redistribution, because I actually believe in redistribution, at least at a certain level, to make sure that everybody's got a shot.
Okay, so that's Barack Obama. I believe in redistribution. That's what he was saying to Joe the plumber. When you spread the wealth around, it helps everybody. Well, the only way you can do that, I was asked to review a book today by a reporter from Indianapolis. Some pastor in his region had just written a new book, and he sent me just a summary excerpt from the book itself describing what the author was about. And one of the things he said he was in favor of, and he thought this was a Christian ideal, was income equality. And what I said, the only way you can get income equality is through government oppression. That is the only possible way you can have everybody have the same income. Government's going to have to take money from those that are more productive and give it to those who are less productive. There's no other way that you can get that done. And that's not a biblical approach to economics. Jesus showed us in the parable of the talents. What did Jesus do in the parable of the talents? The owner in that story is the Christ figure. He gives his own money, his own property. He doesn't take money from somebody else and give it to his servants. He gives his own money to them. And he says, look, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to expect you to take this money, and I'm going to expect you to do something with it. I'm going to expect you to invest it. I'm going to expect you to put this money to work. And when I come back, there's going to be an accounting. He comes back, and the first two servants had doubled his investment in them. And he commends them. He praises them for it. So Jesus was a capitalist. I mean, there's no other way around it. And so when you hear somebody talking about income equality and kind of sanctifying that by using the gospel of the New Testament, that's just socialism. That's not Christianity whatsoever. Now, here is Mitt Romney, clip number 5. And, I think it's pretty clear by now that, we all understand that Governor Romney is not a perfect candidate by any stretch. But the point I want you to get here is that when you listen to Barack Obama talking about the economy and you listen to Mitt Romney talking about the economy, you are listening to two entirely different visions for how wealth is created and sustained. I mean, you cannot say that there's no difference between these two candidates on what they intend to do about the American economy. So we just heard Barack Obama, I believe in redistribution. Here's what Mitt Romney had to say.
Frankly, we have two very different views about America. The president's view is one of a larger government. There's a tape that just came out today where the president's saying he likes redistribution. I disagree. I think a society based upon a government-centered nation where government plays a larger and larger role, redistributes money, that's the wrong course for America. That will not build a strong America or help people out of poverty. I believe the right course for America is one where government steps in to help those that are in need. We're a compassionate people. But then we let people build their own lives, create enterprises. We believe in free people and free enterprise, not redistribution. The right course for America is to create growth, create wealth, not to redistribute wealth.
Now, right on. What Mitt Romney's saying there is exactly right. We're not about redistribution. That's not what my campaign is about. We don't think that's best for America. We're not about taking from some and giving to others. We're about giving everybody a shot at the American dream through a free enterprise, not through the coercive redistribution of wealth. Now, don't forget that Jesus believed in the redistribution of wealth. Let me repeat. Jesus believed in the redistribution of wealth as long as it is voluntary. That's the kind of redistribution of wealth that Jesus believed in, is the voluntary redistribution of wealth. Now, here's Rick Santelli. Let's see if we can squeeze this first one in. Rick Santelli, who launched the Tea Party movement, saying that Mitt Romney's exactly right when he talks about the takers versus the makers. Let's listen.
Well, I'm not going to agree or disagree with Trump. I'll tell you what my opinion is. My opinion is he stated basic facts, not in an elegant fashion, and sometimes the facts aren't easy to swallow. But the issue here isn't about that soundbite. The issue here is about the media. I mean, we have a $16 trillion debt. We have a jobs program, or many jobs programs that haven't worked. We have a Federal Reserve who is ultimately going to print whatever size of their balance sheet we get. We have had an attack on the 11th anniversary of 9/11. Is this what's in the news? No. We're debating about facts that may politically harm Romney. That's arguable, but I don't see that what he said is incorrect.
And here, let's grab clip number 2, Rob, and play it. Here's Rick Santelli, second clip.
We have a dependency society. I mean, we do. It's a fact. And I'm not saying there aren't subsets of people, whether they're retired or whether they can't work, whether they're too old to work. But when I look at the labor force participation rate and I see that out of the eligible pool of workers, we're bringing forth the fewest to actually have a job, there is a problem here. And maybe the media ought to quit hiding under tables and look at some of the bigger issues.
So that's Rick Santelli, and he's pretty worked up. If Deb had his cell phone number, he would have been getting a text right about now. But you know what he says, what Santelli says about what Mitt Romney said is that he's right. He just simply stated basic facts. Maybe it wasn't elegant. Maybe it wasn't articulate. That's, I think, the word that Paul Ryan used today. But I don't see that what he said was incorrect. We do, in fact, have a dependency society. Focal Point AFR Talk.